separate them?
Well, I want to put this also in a larger context for people. The state of Massachusetts comes up with a plan, a 10-year plan every 10 years to deal with all of our waste. It's called the Solid Waste Master Plan. And the current one, the one that went from 2000 to 2010, expires shortly. So the DEP is looking at, what is the next 10 years going to look like in terms of, reduce, reuse, recycle, landfilling, incineration. And overall in Massachusetts, we still bury or burn, so landfill or incinerate, over half of our waste.
Wow.
And we could be doing so much better on so many different fronts. This is just one example of how we could get waste out of landfills, out of incinerators, and get them into a much more healthy, effective, smart recycling system.
So that means the bottles would then be reused.
Exactly. I mean, instead of sending them off, I know you're saying that you separate here, but as I said, of the containers that are not covered by the deposit, 80% of them are going into the trash. And that means they're going to end up either in a landfill, which is an unhealthy, dangerous, and expensive way to deal with waste, leaching into our groundwater, or in an incinerator, which literally is, burning our garbage and putting it into the air. So
Let's look at the economic aspect of that, of what it means in terms of the deposits.
Well, it's win-win, because if you buy a can of Coca-Cola and you put down the nickel deposit, you can bring it back and get your nickel back. If you're somebody who doesn't care about that nickel or doesn't make it back to the store or what have you, that nickel goes to the state of Massachusetts. And it used to be that those nickels would get put into a separate fund called the Clean Environment Fund to help cities and towns do even more recycling. Part of our bill mandates that fund gets set up again. But the nickel, what we call the unclaimed nickel, helps our state it goes right back into the general fund.
And
so
we have that. You list here of what those 5 cents would do for the state.
Well, if we expanded the bottle bill to include all the things you see on the soccer field and in the parks and littering our roadways, if we did that, we would decrease litter, we would increase recycling, we would save natural resources, and the money, the deposits that don't get collected, would go back to the state and hopefully dedicated to this Clean Environment Fund to help cities and towns. So it's win-win. I mean, it really is.
Yeah. So for the viewers, if you have just joined us, this is the Charles River Conservancy Parkland show, and we're talking about the bottle bill and how it would then benefit the parklands as well as many other green spaces. So what can people do if they would like to express the support for that bill?
Well, it is so important for people to contact their state representative and their state senator and simply say, I support the updated bottle bill and I want to see it pass through the legislature. Anybody can do that. You can call, you can email, you can send a letter, you can write a letter to the editor of the Cambridge Chronicle or the Boston Globe, and you need to make your voice heard. You need to communicate with your elected officials, and that is the only way that bills like this get through the legislative process.
Yeah. I know there's a Cambridge resident, Michael Epstein. He wrote an editorial, an op-ed piece at the very day of the hearing.
Oh, it was a great piece.
He was talking about his running along the Charles, and whenever he is there, picking up bottles, and he counts them, but he sees the larger picture of picking up bottles by yourself is not enough. You also need to change the policy. So he did that as a citizen, and I think when when a lot of people read that, it makes a difference.
Absolutely. I mean, that was an opinion editorial. Every kind of press coverage gets the attention of the decision makers and the elected officials.
Yeah.
And that was a great piece. He's on the board of the Conservancy,
He
right?
is, yeah.
It was a fantastic piece.
Yeah, he's a doctor and a runner, and so he kind of made that connection there.
It was a great piece. I don't want people to think they need to be experts or
No.
doctors to write a letter to the
No.
editor or to call their legislator. Anyone and everyone should do that.
Yeah. Now, Janet, give us also a sense of what else is MASSPIRG doing. You're doing a lot of different, but I'd like you to focus on what, since you're talking about the Charles River and the
Sure.
parklands, what particular initiatives you have that benefits the river and the parklands.
Well, a couple of things. One, both here in Massachusetts and working with other PIRGs around the country in Congress, we're working on several bills to reduce the use of toxics. So toxic chemicals are in our air, they're in our water. I know there's been a great effort to clean the Charles River over the years, but we have further that we can go.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of our initiatives is reducing the use of toxics. Another thing which I think promotes, conservation and environmental
Mm-hmm.
protection is our work to promote mass transit.
All right.
And we're real boosters of public transportation, so that hopefully
Good.
is a connection too.
And that's your website and your phone number.
Yes.
And so that people can contact you. I also want to thank the Boston Foundation for making these programs possible. And now I also would like to remind you that we are soliciting more river stories. You might have seen this publication. The Conservancy did that a little while ago. And it has stories in it of people doing things along the river, and we then combine it with watercolors and publish it as river stories. And I will hope that you might send us a river story and tell us your personal story of how you experienced the river and the parklands. It might be that people have collected bottles or counted bottles or attended a hearing in favor of a bill, which is quite an extraordinary experience to see democracy
in action.
In action.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful way of making a huge difference. Some people still prefer to go down to the river with a trash bag or clippers and do that. But we need both.
We need everything, exactly.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say again what great work I think the Conservancy does. And I think there's a direct connection. I mean, if you just look at the cover you were just showing, the beauty of the Charles River and our bridges, the love for our city and for our Commonwealth. This is, I think, what drives people to act, whether it is collecting bottles or whether it's coming down to the State House or whatever it is you do. Get involved in the Conservancy, get involved in MASSPIRG, and participate.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank you, Janet, for coming and talking about the bottle bill. And in case you missed the earlier part of the show, it will go on YouTube in a week or so you can watch it on YouTube as well as other shows of the Charles River Conservancy Parklands that normally is on every other Wednesday at 5:30 live. And thank you again for coming today. And
My teenager will be very impressed that I'm going to be on YouTube.
oh, wonderful. Well, teenagers matter and they understand the environment. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.